Okay, welcome back, CIS 102 students. We're starting our part 5 of the written communication. Next week, we get into our third and final book, and we'll start talking about verbal. Now, part 5 deals with a very important communication medium. The thought, even though we are in a very electronic world, it is still a vitally important means of communicating that we need to do, and we need to do it well. And I'm talking about the letter. Now, a lot of people don't write letters anymore from a personal point of view. Email, texting, and whatnot, messaging have really kind of taken that over. And, that's fine, but we still need to have a more formal means of communicating outside of the company. And I'm talking about outside because letters are used primarily to communicate with people outside of the company. And I'm talking about a written document. Memorandum, on the other hand, as I believe I mentioned before, is used for internal purposes within the company. So letters, we don't, there is training, I believe probably in high school, you were probably instructed of how to write a letter at one time or another, how to lay it out, how to format it. There are templates out there in Word and other places that you can use, and those are all well and good. The big problem is how the letter is written, okay? How the information is presented. Now, there are 3 basic types of what we call business letters. The first one, and the one that you use probably 90% of the time, is what we call a routine letter. Now, a routine letter basically is a way for you to communicate with another person outside the company and possibly request information or to provide answers to information. So it's very front loaded. It's very, this is what I need, looking forward to receiving it. Or this is the information you wanted, looking, and if you have any questions, let me know. So it's very upfront. The other 2, persuasive and negative, are a little bit different. Now, persuasion, again, is basically convincing people to do something, to act, to react, or whatever, possibly otherwise with what they wanted to originally. Okay, it's persuasion. Making people do basically what they probably or don't want to do. Negative messages or bad news messages, or whatever you want to call them, are a little different. They provide the reader with information that is contrary to what they're expecting or what they wanted. An example might be you had a problem with your product. You wrote the company and said, I want a new product. Well, maybe they can't give you a new product, but maybe they will give you something else. So there are, again, very specific ways of handling persuasive and negative. Unlike a routine letter, which starts in the opening with the purpose of this letter is to what? Request, to provide, to whatever. Negative and persuasive don't start that way because that would be contrary to what the purpose of the letter is. Now, I have a couple of, I've got 3 videos that are also in the playlist, and I forgot what it is, but we'll take a look at it here in just a little bit. That cover all 3, one routine, one negative, persuasive, and it is important that you are aware of how to handle, all 3. Now, another thing that I think is vitally important is you have an opening paragraph. You have a body or bodies, multiple body paragraphs, and a closing paragraph. Now, each of those have specific things they are to do. Depending on the type of a letter, the tone, if you wish, negative, routine, and persuasive, the openings will have a specific way, the bodies will have a specific message, and the closings will have specific messages. So yes, there is an art to it. You just don't get there on your keyboard and start banging out a letter. It doesn't work, especially in business. So let me take you, first of all, let's take a look at the week at a glance. Here we go. Career Essentials, CIS 102. Today is Thursday, April 8th. Do is your part 4, writing professional letter assignment. Now, excuse me, that should be, it's not writing professional, I'm sorry, my mistake. I gotta go back and correct that. But what is we're going to talk about this week is part 5, writing professional letters. Okay, so we're going to go back and I'll go back and correct this. But part 4 was due. My apologies. Part 5, there are 3 videos, I believe, in the YouTube channel, and we'll go back and we'll take a look at the fact sheet for the week. And you can see that. The part 5 starts today, and it is due next Wednesday by 11:59 p.m. Okay, I'm going to stop the share here, and I'm going to look at the fact sheet now. Here we go. Here is the fact sheet for part 5, writing professional letters. Again, all the videos are in playlist 10, obviously, where this one is also. But I want you to start understanding professional letter writing. This is going to give you kind of an overview of what we mean by professional letter writing. It is, there are strict ways of doing it. Unlike any letters you may write to somebody, there's really, you can go any format you want and any order you want, and it's really not important. But in letters, they have to be a select format and method. Objective 33, 34, do that. Using a salutation. Now, a salutation is also known as the greeting. Now, ideally, it will be dear, the last name. Let's assume you don't know the person. You never met them or you don't know them well. It will be a dear Mr. Smith, a dear Ms. Johnson, or something like that, okay? And then the last name is followed either by a colon or a comma. I've seen more and more letters coming with my first and last name. There are 2 problems with that. First of all, that tells me, first of all, it's wrong. It should either be my first name or dear Mr. or dear Professor or whatever you want to have it. When I see a dear Anthony Cordy, for example, that tells me that this was a male merged letter. Okay, the reason for that is because the computer cannot distinguish first, middle, last, surnames, and all that, all the other potentials that are out there. It doesn't recognize those. So what it does, it takes the name, the first line of the address in an address file and the letter, and it merges that first line, which tells me that it's probably a spam, not a spam, but junk mail. So if you want credibility, it's either dear Ms. Jones, or if you do know the person, it could be dear Alice or dear whatever, Denise or whatever. But again, that's how we do that. The closing business letters. Well, what do we mean by closing? I believe what they're talking about here is the closing part of the letter, right? Which is very specific. The closing contains a call for an action. Now, a call for an action could be explicit, such as, I need to have your response back by April 10, 2021. It's telling you specifically when. And implied could be, if you have questions, let me know. Doesn't mean you have to do, but if you do, then I will be expecting. All right, writing a routine letter. Again, the routine letter. The opening paragraph starts with the purpose. The body or body paragraphs deal with the details, and the closing is the call for action. What is it that you want or need or will provide, or whatever the case might be. Answering request letters are just routine letters, but what you're doing is replying back. So you would start off answering a request with, this letter is in response to yours dated blah, 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 or something like that, okay? And then it would follow the normal routine format. Persuasive messages. Now, they only talk about persuasive, but I threw in negative messages because they are both unique. Now, how often are you going to write, first of all, a negative message? Probably not very frequently. Right? But you need to know how to do it properly. If someone requesting something you can't do, you don't come out and say, this is a request to your email, and no, we can't do that. Okay, that's not going to be very good for future cooperation. So there's a way to do that. Persuasive, you're not going to start a persuasive message by starting, purpose of this letter is to convince you to do something you don't want to do. Because I'm sitting there going, okay, bring it on, try it. So there are certain ways of doing it. Those two videos will help you identify what goes in the opening, what goes in the body, and what goes in the clothing. Well worth watching those. Okay. Goodwill letters are basically kind of a routine letter, but a little more of an upbeat approach. But there may be specifics that they'll talk to you about. Okay. Again, the letters are still an extremely vital tool that we are using today. Okay? And I frankly can't see you not having them, maybe not hard copy, but certainly electronic format, which means you still have to file these formats down the road. Anyways, so that is the fact sheet. Now, there are several files which are in the module, or excuse me, in the part 5 assignments. As always, you start with the first one, complete the work as stated on the fact sheet, upload it by itself or save them all individually, and then upload them. All right, I think that should cover it for this week. As always, if you do have any questions, how to get a hold of me, please do so, and I'll be glad to get back to you. Oh, by the way, check your grade books. Make sure that what you have grade-wise is correct. If I miss something, please let me know. All right. That's it, folks. Have a great week, and talk to you next week on the video.